So we were talked about the video.
Yes, I did. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here. So slowly make your way back to your seats. Oh, everyone was very quick, making their way back to their seat. Okay, hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Grace. I'm the volunteer coordinator here at Fulham Good Neighbours. I started in November along with Lubab, my colleague here, and we have been really enjoying our time getting to know everyone. So thank you for being here today. Today, we are going to be having some presentations from Nandine and Ala, who are from the Equalities and Engagement team at the NHS. We're then going to hear from Dr. Stephen Orleans-Foli, who is a consultant psychiatrist and clinical research lead for cognitive and dementia service. These are a bit of a mouthful, these coming up too. Simon Maskell, who you guys obviously all just met, who is a biokineticist and founder of Simon Maskell Biokineticist and Associates. And Yasmin, Nuria, and Lauren from Imperial College. That's all from me. Very quickly, just some housekeeping. In the very unlikely event the fire alarm goes off, we're all just going to calmly make our way through that door there and across the street, and then just wait for the instructions. The toilet is right here to the left. And yeah, if you guys need anything, please do let me know and enjoy. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ala. I am the engagement and the involvement manager at the Northwest London Integrated Care Partnership and cover the Hammersmith and Fulham, in addition to the other borough, Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster. I am so pleased here today to come and to talk with you about how we improve the NHS services, specifically for vulnerable group, that is the elderly people and learning with learning disability, physical disability. So all the people who really need a lot of concern or have a lot of issue about accessing their services. I don't know whether if any of you are aware about around 2 years ago, there are a big changes in the structure of NHS. And the main causes of this structure is to focus on patient need, patient requirement, and how to make patient in the heart of the center of all our services. So that is why we are now changing to a lot of structure. I don't want to go through it, but at the moment, we have a lot of issue and a lot of things that will be held to involve patient, community center, and all other people in our designing and co-producing the services. And if you go to the slide, yeah. So this is give you, general things about Northwest London. At the moment, we are covering all the Northwest London, which cover 8 councils, starting from the Hammersmith, Fulham, Kensington, Chelsea, Westminster, Ealing, Hounslow, Harrow, Hillington, and Brent. However, we are dealing with the Hammersmith as a team, and Westminster and Kensington and Chelsea. And because we are part of the public service, so our fund will be supplied by the taxpayer. That is why we need to ensure that our service will be efficient, effective, and match the need of the people. That is the good things. In addition to our professional things. So in order to improve our services and to make our services match the need of the people, what we need our review, we need our side, we need our feedback about what the current service is, how to improve it. So in order to do that, we have a set of engagement and involvement with the people, because there is no point just we expected that the people will need such services, or how to access GP, or how to access, hospital appointment, care home, or mental health. So a lot of services. So that is why we have this approach that we, recently we have committed to do it. One of them is the outreach, specifically for the people we haven't heard from them before. And that is why we have today here, in order to hear from you, because you are, one of the vulnerable cohort group. Or many times we go to the other, disabled, learning disability, other, BNE group. So that is why we are a team, and we can go anywhere in order to get their side and their idea about their services or any concern they have. The second point is we usually in each one, we publish a report that cover all the activity and all the services and what the things we are planning to do. And this is access to all the public. So you can get it on the line, you can get it on the council website as well. So you have, at least you have some sort of idea about what is going on. And if you have any comment, we are more than welcome to get feedback about any event or any activity that we did. The third thing, in order to share with the people, we hold some sort of collaborative space meeting that will be, for example, in Hammersmith, we haven't set it yet, but however, we have working with the Hammersmith NHS, and we have what is called bi-monthly, I think, patient reference group. I don't know whether some of you previously we had it before the corona. So that meeting will involve a lot of residents, community volunteer group, to talk about any issue regarding the health and well-being. Also, we have in the Integrated Care Partnership, ICP, we have lay partners that we involve, and that lay people always, they express their issue or what they have to the central. This is at strategic level. And also we have what is called citizen panel that consists until now is 3,800, and this is open for anyone if you would like, or more than happy, to give you the address and the email, and you can links. And I think at the end of this year, you will get my contact details. So just email me, and I will be doing this. In this panel, there are a lot of news and a lot of survey, a lot of sometimes we need some feedback from the people about the services, or if you have any concern or suggestion about how to improve, you are more welcome to put it in this citizen panel. Also, recently we have some sort of design advisory body that we set 3-4 weeks ago, and that will be specifically with the Imperial, of course, with the Imperial Trust and Community Volunteer Group, to focusing only on those people we haven't heard from them yet. And that is mainly, for elderly people, learning disability, people, their language is not English, specifically the homeless, refugee, and, all these people, we need to go there and to involve them in our, co-production and co-design of the services, because there are a lot of services going to change. Not only access the GP or hospital, for example, for the diabetes, we have a lot of changes in the checking and follow-up hypertension, ischemic heart disease, musculoskeletal disease, mental health, maternity and childhood. So there are a lot of services that all of that we need your income. Sorry, your input. Because that's our limit. Anyway, so we need your input in that. Why? Because we are focusing, as I mentioned, we need to put the patient in the center of our services. That is why we need what the patient would like the services to look like, not what we expected the patient would like. So that is why we're focusing on this one. Sorry. Our team is consistent from FAIR. Atlanta is the senior manager. I am at the bottom is just, my name is Ada, and my colleague Siri is mainly focusing on the Westminster and Kensington and Chelsea, and my colleague Nandine. So we are four together, and you will find our contact at the end, or I have some card here if you would like later on to get it. So we are more than happy, to contact us if you have any suggestion, or if you would like to get involved in any of, our activity, or even if you have any event, you hold it, or you think it is best to come, we are more than happy to come and to talk and to discuss about how we get involved, or to collect some of idea and insight of the people. How we collect, the insight or the people feedback. First of all, we are listening to the people concern, listening to the people's suggestion, what they would like, because we are actively listening to everything, either verbally, on email, or on phone, whatever it is, in all different ways. So listening to them, what they want, with their experiences, and we are more than happy to hear about your experiences of accessing the service. We heard a lot about accessing the GP. That is why we would like to hear more and more, because we are in the process of changing a lot of things about how to approach the GP, because it is not like before the corona or the pandemic. Something it will be different. That is why we need to put it in such a way. Also, when we listen and we are fully aware about what the people want, we take all this idea to our senior level and we discuss it, and then we will, at the final things, they will discuss it at the ICB board, that including as I mentioned, LA member and people, as well as some of community political group, and when they agree, definitely we will start to implement it in the community. So that is why the first step in changing any services is your input, your suggestion, your feedback about the services. So that, and we base on this thing in order to improve our services. Also, as I mentioned, we share all this information with the presenting local, as I mentioned, with the community, with the sharing information with our weekly. And I think we issue as a team a weekly newsletter, and that weekly newsletter, I don't know whether have you received it. I don't know. I think you have including in our list, the Fulham neighborhood. So, and that will be at least give you some idea about what is going on from the activity, any new services, if there is any survey, if there is any, questionnaire regarding your idea. So that will be fine if you have it. And I am sure I will send it to the Fulham, neighbors, and they can circulate it to you as well. It is electronic copy. What issue we are, the priority of our issue, because we have, a lot of priority is on what the people told us. The one thing is in winter, is always, the winter issue is the flu and the COVID vaccine and, access to A&E, all these things. We know that. This is one thing we need if you have any issue. The other issue is inequality from work. We are planning to hold a big event for implement inequality from work. And the main topics is what matters to you about the health. And that will be, I think, in the mid-14th of March. I will give you further timeline. And this is open to all people in the Hammersmith. And we need to hear from you about any inequality in access of the services. So that is one thing we are going to do. The other things is we're focusing, is mental health and isolation is another issue. Children, young people, care home services, discharge from hospital, again, is a big issue. And I think Prime Minister last week, they focus about hospital at home and community care, improve it in order to reduce the pressure on the A&E as well as the people for discharge people from the hospital. Obesity and diabetes, again, it is one of the big issues that we are always involved and raise awareness about. End of life care, cancer awareness, reducing barrier of health services and community speech, like specifically for learning disability and autism and homeless. In order to make our services is equitable to all of the people, we always putting in our mind how we make the equality and health inequality assessment. So we always have the form, and we always make sure that involve all the parties, the different party of our community. So we give, the equality and the equality of services is much important. And as you notice, we need to follow this form, and then the full form will go to the senior manager to check it to ensure that all the people who is out of reach get involved in our services and our activity. And I think you are one of them. So that is why we are more than happy today with you. We're focusing, in NHS, we consider some of characteristic rules. What mean characteristic rule? That the NHS should be involved in all services. We should go to them. We should, communicate with them, not waiting for them to get to us. And this is 9 of them. First of all is age, disability, gender, blah, 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 all this, in front of you, sexual orientation, religious beliefs. We don't consider this when we provide our services. We always be equal to all of these people regarding their age, disability, gender, marriage, pregnancy, race, sexual orientation, religion, and sex. And NHS, this is for the government. While NHS put in another vulnerable group, that is carer, homeless, traveler, the gypsy, AX offender. For example, tomorrow we'll have a meeting with them. Mental illnesses, and people living in area of great inequality. Of course, that including the homeless and the. So these people, that is why NHS was focusing again on these people as well, in addition to the characteristic protection. So at the end of the day, we always ask the people, what is your experiences? How to improve your expenses in accessing services or in using NHS services? How we improve it, and lastly, how we can together making difference in services. And I don't know which priority we want to choose from one of this. And this is the contact detail of our senior manager for the team, which is Atende. I think she joined us. And this is my one, Ala.Mohammed. I am more than happy to contact, or my colleague Nandine again. And I think that is for me. And the last thing is so if you have any questions or any query or any suggestion, we are pleased to hear from you about NHS. Well, let me remind you.
You can send your contact details out as well.
Yeah, please.
So
Yeah. If anyone you want to contact me, this is my business card. Just email me, and I am more than happy. If you would like to involve in it,
Yeah.
May I just make a comment?
Do you want to?
Yes.
I went this morning to a blood test at Charing Cross.
Yes.
And it took me a morning, more than a morning, to actually work out how to get the blood test done. I knew it had changed after COVID.
Yeah.
On the website, there are 2 NHS websites, so both give conflicting advice. One of them still says that Charing Cross has a walk-in centre for blood testing. That is not correct. You have to have an appointment. But do they give the phone number? No. It's quite hard to contact people when necessary.
Okay, no, thank you. We will take this, and we will see what is going on, and definitely we'll get back to you, about your query specifically about the.
That's great. Thank you.
The testing and what is going on.
Thank you.
So to have one website which is simply worded, makes sense.
Yeah,
And
with
all
correct
these
updated
and dated.
Yeah.
Dates the websites which you never do.
I
It would
see.
be really helpful when you're looking for information.
Yeah. No, that's fine, absolutely fine. Thank you. That's good thing. That is good things. Any more or?
Was there one more question over here?
I was saying, do social services still exist?
Well, social services, we are working closely with the local authority. And social services belong to local authority rather than us. But I am more than happy, to take if you have any concern, because we always in communication and contact with them. And again, as I mentioned in March and even in February, we are going to arrange a lot of community event called World Event 4 in Hammersmith, and the big one in the March, and that's talking what matter to you, and that is in close connection between NHS and the local authority. So I am more than happy if you would like to give me your detail and invite you all of us to that meeting. You are more than welcome. If you have any comment, any suggestion, because the local authority was with us as well. But if you have anything, let us know, and we will be in touch with them.
Just one other thing, when you phone the doctor in the morning, when you phone at 7 to say you're 17 in the queue, and you know by the end when you get, you're not going to get
No,
your phone,
I
and they tell you to phone back at 12, and you get the same answer. So,
My doctors as well, it's the same, sometimes they say, you're number 5, and when you come to 3 again, it goes to your number 1, and then 5 never comes for some time. Which is not fair. And then today I heard on the radio that we are going to have like doctors' visits on the Zoom. Is it true by next year?
Well, there are a lot of, that is why I say on the GP access. GP access is, as I mentioned, it is not as expected before the corona, that you can just contact a GP or you can and book appointment. There are different, but I don't mean no, there are different. And again, it is up to the patient, not to the GPs. One of them is face-to-face, but we are focusing on digital. I mean, either online or by the phone, okay, or by the video links. So this is all the different
It's not
issues.
easy.
I mean, we don't exclude the face-to-face. I mean, maybe for you prefer, and you are right. You can't book face-to-face. Or for other people, especially the young people, they want to make it even on the phone rather than on the line. So that is why there are now a bit of difference. That is why we are not, imposed for you, to have digital or online appointment. No.
But not everybody I'm on the line, isn't
I
it?
know.
And there are not, I mean, myself, although I am 70 years.
Yes.
I am not very good with my IT skills.
Yeah.
But then there are older people.
Absolutely.
Like my sister, my older sister, and my older brother, and whatever.
Yeah.
They don't have IT skills.
Yeah.
So how can they do?
Well,
this?
you can't book as usual. Face-to-face. It is up to the
I don't see the
patient.
doctor for 3 years.
Margaret, do you want to take a card? You have one. I'll just give you, and I don't think there's any more cards, but like I said, I'll send out their contact information to everybody so that you can all, contact. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we are now going to hear from Dr. Stephen Orleans-Foli. He is from the Cognitive and Dementia Service. He is the clinical research lead. And Fulham Good Neighbours, we don't like to just stop things here at Fulham Good Neighbours. We like to work with external partners. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to kind of nab Dr. Orleans-Foli to give you some more information on the impact of ethnic representation in medical research and how there's a desperate need for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How do I set this?
Just go.
Okay. So I'm here to talk about having all-inclusive involvement in research. And what I'm going to play a video shortly, which will give you some explanation as to why that's important. The video is going to focus on drug trials, but when I talk about research, I mean across the board. So that might be administering a questionnaire to get your views. It might be looking at the use of a medical device. It might be evaluating various lifestyle interventions. So I'm going to try and make a case as to why it needs to particularly involve people from all ethnicities. And when I say ethnicities, I'm particularly focusing on ethnic minorities. And just to clarify, when I say ethnic minority, it's not just people, it involves white people as well. So basically the definition of an ethnic minority is someone of a particular ethnic origin who is the minority in a particular country. So as far as I'm concerned, white Irish are an ethnic minority. And in fact, I would say when I look at involvement and health interventions for people, white Irish backgrounds, it's often missed because people don't identify them. They basically say, oh, it's all, you're all white British, and they're not British. And they actually have various differences which may affect how we involve them in terms of health interventions. So much of what we do in medicine is guided by good health research. We can't just introduce a product and say, use this. It needs to go through various stages whereby we can actually show that it is safe and that it's going to be effective for the population. The trouble we have is that although we have well-designed studies, very often they're based upon mainly white Caucasian people because they often buy into a lot of the research which is offered, whereas minority ethnics often don't, for various reasons. And that's one thing I'm actually looking at, and as a project Jamie is aware of it, I want to I'm trying to do what we call a qualitative study, whereby we will ask the main ethnic minority groups, which in Hampstead and Fulham are people from South Asian backgrounds and people from Black ethnic, Afro-Caribbean and African backgrounds, what it is that they would want to be better involved in research. Okay? And I'm going to present some vignettes based upon certain medical conditions, which will be reinforced hopefully by Simon afterwards, as to why that's important. So I'm going to play this short video.
Just press that again.
Press that again. Okay. Which was made by
medical science as a problem. It's missing something that means that not only is it hard to find the causes of something, some diseases is overlooked entirely. It turns out what it's missing could be new. I'll get to that in a bit, because first, a story, or 8 billion stories to be precise. See, our DNA is our body's instruction manual, sure, but it's also a history book that records our own unique genetic story. All our stories begin around 300,000 years ago, when humans arose in Africa. Some genetic stories tell of leaving 100,000 years later, journeying into Europe, East Asia, or the Americas. Some genetic stories speak of expanding empires. Others, the diseases we evolved to ward off, and some the simple acts of settling down, raising cattle, and drinking. Each of our genetic stories are different, but maybe not as different as you might expect. We share 99.9% of our DNA with each other. Our stories are 99.9% identical, but 0.1% difference is incredibly. And that's the only difference between our genetic stories is where we have the potential to develop better treatments for diseases, treatments that work for everyone. But medical science isn't currently reading all those stories. So let me tell you how researchers work over the causes of diseases and develop and test the effectiveness and safety of new treatments. To find out the causes of a particular disease, researchers find lots of people who have that condition and comb through their genetic stories. They look for little variations they share, little bits of their DNA stories that are spelled differently. If they find some, then they try all sorts of different ways of dealing with the effect of it. And if that uncovers something that looks promising, they then run a clinical trial to see if it actually is. In phase 1, a small group of volunteers try the treatment. Well, often only half of them do, with the other half getting a placebo that does absolutely nothing. If there aren't any notable side effects at the target dose, the treatment is cleared to move on to the next stage of the clinical trial. Phase 2, this time with a bigger group of participants who all have the condition the researchers hope the drug will treat. If the drug appears effective, it moves on to phase 3, with more participants trying it for even longer. After all this, is the new treatment then reviewed and hopefully approved for use by us, the general population. Here is the ethnicity of lots and lots of people used to recently find the causes of various diseases. And here is how that compares to the ethnic diversity of the world's population. So the difference, the genetic stories that researchers are combing through are heavily biased to those of people from European descent, which means that if you're searching for those disease-causing bits of DNA to target new drugs against, and you're mainly reading the stories of people of European descent, you might overlook key bits in the stories of other groups that tell of, say, a changed risk of disease, or even shed light on how disease occurs. For example, scientists may not have found the mutation that causes sickle cell disorder if they looked in the stories of people with European descent. Is what medical science is missing doesn't end there. When new treatments or medical devices are being tested, they need to be tested on everyone that may use them. If the genetic stories involved don't reflect the breadth of stories in our worldwide library, then again, something might be missed. Take, for example, the medicine warfarin, used to prevent blood clots. Researchers have found that to produce the same effect, most people of East Asian descent need a lower dose than some people of European descent. Most people of African ethnicity need a larger dose, which means the dose that works best for someone may vary according to their ethnicity. It's this kind of important information that can be missed if clinical trials don't include people from across the range of ethnicities. So, what's the solution? It's quite simple in theory. In order to develop treatments that work better for everyone, we need to involve everyone's stories in medical research in the early stages, in the drug development process, and right through the clinical trial. The good news is that more and more people are thinking this. For example, cancer researchers at Imperial College London researching genetic markers for cancer want to analyse tissue samples from a wide range of ethnicities, so that the biomarkers of cancer they identify will be relevant for people from as many ethnicities as possible. Bottom line, medical science needs to ensure it's got the best library it can have, one with the widest collection of genetic stories possible, so that everyone's story can be considered, including yours. That is the only way to ensure everyone, everywhere, can get the best medical treatment they possibly
As I said, it focuses on clinical trials, but as I said, research is a much wider.
medical science hasn't fun.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just present two vignettes of conditions which we know overburden disproportionately certain ethnic minority groups. So high blood pressure, hypertension. We know it's a major risk factor for heart disease and strokes. It is found more prevalent in people of Black African ancestry and Afro-Caribbean ancestry, and as well as South Asians. When I refer to South Asians, I'm referring to Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi because they're the largest group that we know of. But actually, South Asians encompasses people from Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and very often they're not involved in a lot of research. And we have to be careful when we group people as a whole, because there will be subtle differences even between people from a different country. Even though we might say, oh, all South Asians, that's not the case. There will be subtle differences, which is why research has to be all-encompassing and always ensure that we have information on that person's ethnicity. So as I said, it's a disease which causes a lot of health burden. It's associated with strokes, serious kidney disease, and coronary artery disease. But for some reason, people of African descent tend to suffer more in the way of kidney disease and strokes, and not coronary artery disease. Whereas people from South Asian and from white European backgrounds tend to have more in the way of coronary artery disease. Why? We can only answer that question if we're involving everyone in that research. In the treatment for hypertension, research has shown that certain ethnic minorities benefit from certain drugs better than others. So the guidance is that if you're from a Black African or Afro-Caribbean ethnicity, you should primarily be started on a group of drugs, antihypertensives called angiotensin receptor blockers. Whereas if people are started, so people who are from white and South Asian backgrounds, they do better on a class of medication called angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. Why? Again, we can only answer that question if we involve everyone in the research to find out what's going on so that we can have the right treatment. But research is always evolving, and despite the nice guidance on how we should prescribe antihypertensives, which was 2019, people continue to do research, and a paper came out last year from Eastwood looking at nearly 750,000 people, which included about 4% of South Asians and 2.6% of people from African and Afro-Caribbean ethnicities. And they found no differences in terms of the antihypertensives. So what we know is that people of Black, African and Afro-Caribbean ethnicities, they take the right antihypertensives, but they still have poor blood pressure control. So they looked at why, and they found out it's because there's poor compliance. So that raises another question that can only be answered by research asking those particular individuals, why is it you find it difficult to continue taking the medication? Is it side effects? You know, it could be a whole raft of issues, but we can only know the answers if we ask the questions of the people who are actually experiencing the problem. I missed a slide, I think. The case of dementia research, which is the area I'm interested in, there's been lots of novel advancements, mainly focusing on identifying early biomarkers so that we can detect the disease very, very early, in the hope that as we're trying to develop disease medications which can stop the disease, then we'll have in our battery the ability to actually identify it at a very, very early stage. Now, some of the biomarkers have been found in the fluid which covers the brain and spinal cord. We call it cerebrospinal fluid, and as a blood test, which hopefully by the end of this year will be licensed in the UK. But unfortunately in the UK, there's very, very low representation from ethnic minority groups in this research. And the danger we have then is that we're looking at biomarkers which may not be appropriate for these ethnic minorities. So in the study which was conducted by John Morris in 2019, they looked at the cutoff points of some of these biomarkers in African American ethnicities, and they found it was actually lower in that group. So what that means is that if we didn't have that research, we'll be saying to someone of that ethnicity that, oh, don't worry, you haven't got Alzheimer's disease very early because your levels are really low. So it means they will go undetected, and then they are going to suffer as a result of that. And that's where these kind of inequalities in health are perpetuated. And that's why, again, we can only answer those questions if we involve all ethnicities in this sort of research. So, I hope you all agree with me, but one size doesn't fit all. And we can only generalize the findings of good research, whether it be medication, lifestyle interventions, whether or not you should be going to do the gym 5 times a week if you're from a South Asian background, or actually you should only be working out 15 minutes once a week, but really intensively. We won't know those answers unless we involve everyone in health research. So, so I'm focusing on trying to recruit everyone within our borough and across West London. So we cover Ealing and Hounslow as well. In research, we have a whole variety of projects, but one project I'm hoping we can recruit to across all age groups is actually speaking to people of ethnic minorities and asking, why do you not want to be involved in research? There's a lot of reasons, historic reasons, but we need to know what will help overcome those hurdles so that we can actually help everyone. So I'm going to, that's my contact details. Jamie has it, and that's the telephone number where I work in the research delivery service. So thank you, and any questions? Or we have a question at the end. Yeah, do you have any questions?
How far do you think education plays in this?
In being involved in research?
It's not participating, they're not getting involved.
It's not, well, education can play partly into this if someone doesn't speak English or maybe didn't have full education. But then our role is to then ensure that if we're informing all the groups about research, that we do it on their terms. Yes. So research has shown that elderly South Asians who do not speak English do not want to be involved in research in the afternoons when their adult children are at work. They want their adult children to accompany them, but we close shop at 5 o'clock. So in America, what they do is they go to those communities and they open up shop in the evenings up until 8 o'clock, so that those ethnic minorities who maybe have to work 2 shifts, work late, are not discriminated because financially they're finding it difficult to cope. So if you want them to actually attend, then we need to attend when they are available. It means we actually having interpreters to support them to explain research in the language which they can understand. I'm sure you've all seen adverts on the tube or in the hospital saying, be involved in research. We know that most ethnic minorities see that and say, that doesn't apply to me, because it's not being communicated in the way that they would register. So a lot of it is about how we approach things, and that is why one of the reasons I want to do this questionnaire research is to actually find out what are the best ways to be able to engage and help them to be involved.
Well, it's to help them understand it's important
It is,
to participate,
yeah.
and they're just not interested in participating.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not, but because I know there's been various studies, particularly on South Asians, and even fewer studies on in people of Black African descent. But those involving the South Asian community, they've always reported they are happy to be involved in research. Some of them will say they feel, even if it's not going to benefit them, they think in terms of altruistic reasons, it's important. But the issue is about accessibility. So if we went to talk about that research to the mosque, in the temple, on certain events where festival where people be there, they're more willing to be receptive. But if we put advertisements on the radio, it's not what they, it's not what they want. We know Afro-Caribbeans and Black Africans, they like to be approached directly. They don't want an advert. They want you to be scrutinized and say, why should we be involved in this? How is it going to benefit them? But if we don't do that, because we just say, take it or leave it, then they're going to leave it. So it's about how we change the way we practice in terms of engaging everyone in research. Any other questions?
What's the age group?
The age group?
Age group we want involved.
Everyone. So I want everyone above age 18. So 18 up to, yes, I want all generations. So I'm focused. The only reason I focused on South Asians or Pakistani, Indian, and Bangladeshi, because they're the larger group. And then again, I'm focusing on a specific West African nationality. So depending upon whether or not it'll be Ghanaians or Nigerians, and then Afro-Caribbean. With the Afro-Caribbeans, I actually wanted to restrict it to one island, because I said, why should I put all Afro-Caribbeans in one pot, but it's just very difficult logistically to do that. So I've had to accept that I have to opening up to all Afro-Caribbeans, but it's about all across all generations. But the idea is that I don't want to homogenize, and that's the trouble when we do one size fits all. We homogenize findings and we say, oh, that's applicable to everyone. And yet we know, for instance, in diabetes, which I'm sure Simon's going to talk about, when you look at the research, people who are from Bangladeshi backgrounds need to be kept at a BMI of below 24. People of Indian backgrounds, those are South Asians, can be kept around about 26 and they won't develop diabetes.
What
People,
about the Irish people?
and that is the problem. Very little is done. Very little, and that is the issue. But when you actually look at the race equality, they all accept the fact that white Irish people are really hard done by, and they actually have perhaps even worse of outcomes in terms of cardiovascular disease, because no one actually identifies who the white Irish are. They just say, oh, we won't collect the data. And if they did collect the data, they'll find that actually they do worse on a lot of these outcomes, and we should be doing more. And that's what I'm saying, it's about recognizing all ethnic minorities. And it was just one question I wanted to make to the group before. Just a plea, do not use the term BAME or BME. So even the Law Society 2021 have recognized we either use minority ethnics or ethnic minorities. And the reason for that is that we accept the fact that there's some white ethnicities, but are also minorities. So that's why we don't use the term, at least they've discouraged the term BAME. So that's my one feedback to you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for listening. I hope that you can give all your details to
Doc, thank you so much. That was really interesting. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Ladies and gents, should we have a 2-minute little break to the toilet if you may choose? And let's give it 2 minutes. And if there's any water flying around, I think we do that as well. Doc, can I get you any?
water.
Yeah. Anyone wants anything? No, we're all good.
My details, don't you? I don't mind joining in the research.
Can the research give me one? Let me put down your name.
Ruth knows my name.
Can I take your name on that motion?
Ruth knows my name and my email address. She has all my details.
So you want to be involved in this? That's great. We'll contact. We'll contact you.
You will contact me.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's take. Some of me, right? Some of it.
Your problems?
Oh, no.
It's on record. Yeah. I'll just say it again.
Yep.
Did I take Grace to no thanks?
Okay, guys, please all take your seat. All right. Okay. So we're into the next presentation. Unfortunately for you all, you're going to have to listen to my voice again, but hopefully it's a little interesting. I really enjoyed putting this talk together. I originally thought that it's actually not the easiest topic for all of us to speak about, and that got me a little bit apprehensive to begin with. And once I started getting into my research, I got even more excited, because as Doc has explained to us, there's so many holes in the research that just, I don't want to say disregards, but just doesn't actually take all inclusivity into account. And it's a big problem, because there's loads of information that gets lost through poorly designed research, that if we just approach the right individuals the right way, we could get a lot more very valuable information. So I'm going to take us through diabetes, heart health, and ethnicity, but I'm going to go quickly through diabetes, quickly through heart health, and focus my attention on ethnicity. Please stop me at any time. I'm very free on that, so please stop me at any time. You're welcome to ask questions at any time. Okay, so yes, you're correct. I do have a South African accent, and I'm extremely proud of growing up in South Africa for all of those reasons. It is one of the most diverse places in the world. We have 11 official different languages. So that's mind-boggling, really, because that exposes you to so many different cultures from so many different angles. And we all know the challenges of South Africa in particular. We know the challenges of ethnicity in particular, but South Africa has taught me how to see each one of us as individuals, as this is who I am. It's not the color of my skin that changes who I am, you know, and And I really commend my parents for that upbringing as well. Yes, am British. I have got British ancestry, mom South African, and I lived in South Africa for 30 years of my life, which at times I'm very challenged by because I know how difficult it is in South Africa and I know why I'm not there. And then I just miss it. And I miss it because of the people. So I usually start my talk, I usually finish my talk about South Africa in some way. But I thought it would be a really good starting point for this evening's talk so that you get a better understanding of what I'm about when it comes to ethnicity. And what has really helped me in my clinical practice is actually that upbringing. I think I'm a better practitioner seeing individuals as individuals because of South Africa. So yes, there are some interesting thoughts that you can design having lived in a country like that. So I'm not going to go through the contents. There's enough of it to get through. Quickly, the profession of biokinetics, for those of you that don't know, I just want to touch on it quickly. So it's the science of human movement, 4 years study, 1 year internship. It's a 5-year medical degree. In South Africa, we're fully qualified to take on any patient of any condition pretty much, and fully supported by medical insurances. Here in the UK, we are swimming uphill, never mind upstream. We are very few in a very large pool, but I'm very proud to be a biokineticist and pushing so hard. Set up the Biokinetics Association in the United Kingdom as of May of 2021, just because I believe in what we can offer as professionals to the public. So I'm going to skip through that, focusing on diabetes and cardiovascular disease today. So just a little summary of diabetes. In the normal system, the insulin is produced by the pancreas. Okay, the pancreas produces this insulin from the islets of Langerhans, a really cool term for the cells. That insulin then is pumped into the bloodstream to decrease the blood sugar within the bloodstream. Okay, and if that system is not running optimally, we are at risk of diabetes. Okay, there are two types of diabetes. There is type 1. Very simply, you do not produce your own insulin. You require insulin injections, and that is devastating for the particular patient. But with medical research, there is unbelievable strides that are being taken with regards to type 1 diabetes. And why I'm saying that is I actually have a brother. My oldest brother is type 1 diabetic from the age of 6, and my niece has been diagnosed within the last year and a half with type 1 diabetes. And it is non-curable at this stage. Medical research, we leave it all up to you, but it is non-curable, non-preventable, and we don't know how it happens. But you're left injecting yourself a couple of times a day for the rest of your life. Diabetes type 2 is more the lifestyle related diabetes. So making certain decisions throughout our life, yes, we may grow a little bit of girth. And when it becomes a problem is when that girth is actually around our organs, so our visceral fat, okay? And that reduces the ability of the pancreas to produce good insulin to then decrease the blood flow within the system. And once the blood sugar, the blood sugar within the system, and once the blood sugar in the system is at a higher rate than what we'd like, it starts causing damage to the arteries within the system. So that's where it becomes a challenge, is it's actually an underlying visually condition that ultimately is starting to degenerate or diminish the ability of those vessels to operate optimally. Gestational diabetes, diabetes during pregnancy, I'm not going to go too deeply into that one, but it does occur, and it is a really serious thing at that particular moment, and is treatable, and you often come out of diabetes after pregnancy, but some ladies get left with diabetes after pregnancy as well. more information, you're welcome to contact. Then diabetes type 3C. Has anyone heard of diabetes type 3C? Doc? Yeah. Yeah, cool. So we've got 2 people in the room. Anyone else with type 3C? No, cool. So type 3C is obviously quite new, but what it is actually if the pancreas is damaged. So pancreatic cancer, for example, any serious trauma. But what it is also being associated to is Alzheimer's. And that's an interesting area because there's now it's not really a medical condition, but at least a term for Alzheimer's that might be occurring because of blood sugar or diabetes, which is just interesting. And Doc, that might be an area of interest for you. And that's why I mentioned it. But also, we still don't have the research in the place to actually have the right type of tools to give the best possible outcomes to all of society. And that is the take-home message. So unfortunately, I am going to leave you with lots of questions rather than lots of answers, but that's actually where the conversation starts. So pre-diabetes, this value over there, 13.6 million people are at risk of diabetes across the UK, which I think is a fairly staggering number. And this is when your blood sugar levels are not quite normal, but not quite high enough to be diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. Okay, exercise, a very powerful tool in that space. And one of our class members, super committed to our exercise classes, has been able to manage his pre-diabetes through exercise and, yes, commitment to the process, which I'm extremely proud of. And I hopefully have been able to, put a couple more years into not only that particular patient's life, but also all of our lives by doing a little bit more exercise in the right space. Cool. So cardiovascular disease and heart health. As soon as I looked at this slide, I actually wanted to say, like, what the hell are we looking at here? And actually, what the hell are we looking at here? Okay, so does anyone understand this little picture over there?
Yes.
Cool. So what is happening is that is a cross-section of the vessel. All right, so there's the heart muscle. Down the heart muscle are coronary arteries. Those coronary arteries, unfortunately, get blocked by plaque. So the cholesterol starts to accumulate within the endothelium of the vessel. Don't worry about that stuff. But if it then were to rupture, that particular substance gets clogged within the vessel. And over time, if we get a blockage, that is where a heart attack may occur. Okay, so that just gives you a little idea of cardiovascular disease. Unfortunately, it can be hugely severe and also does occur across different areas of the body. Strokes, heart attacks, small vessels, so eyes, kidneys, things like that, as well as other organs. And then also the periphery, so down into your peripheral blood vessels. You can also get something called atherosclerosis, which is the process. So risk factors, and I love this slide. You may have seen this one before, but it's my best. Please disregard the color of his skin. That is what I will say, because this comes across for every single one of us in this room, whether we are a lady or a gent, so please disregard his name. But I really like the name Fred, so I called him Fred, and I'd like you to meet him. He sits on the couch, he watches TV rather than doing it himself. He's got a stash of cigarettes there, he's eating burgers, his belly's popping through his shirt. If we were to put a blood pressure cuff on his arm, what do you expect? High? Yeah. If we were to take his blood sugar, what would you expect? Possibly high, possibly. And if we were to take his blood cholesterol, what would you expect? Potentially high as well. So why I say possibly and potentially and all of those good things is we don't actually know if we don't monitor. And there's my first take-home message. Please monitor. If you don't monitor, you don't actually know. Okay, and that really, get those blood pressure cuffs around those arms. You might be feeling absolutely fantastic, but if you don't monitor, you don't know. Okay, cool. So that covers all of the risk factors within one slide, and those risk factors accumulate over time, and they put us at risk of disease. Yeah. So he's not a young gent. He's about 54. He's at risk of disease, and this does occur in life, and I fully respect that. We just have to take the measures to actually live long, happy, and healthy lives, and I really encourage that. Good. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I am going to highlight ethnicity. Now, in talks gone by, even by myself, and often when you see other presenters present talks and they speak about cardiac risk factors and they, go through the list, very infrequently do we focus on ethnicity. And that actually excites me, because now it's given me this particular evening's talking session the ability to dig deep into ethnicity, and I've really enjoyed doing the research in that space. So those are other factors. One I will mention is we underestimate the risk factor of mental health and stress, and we have to take care of our brains, because our brains are our powerhouses. If we don't take care of our brains, our bodies, unfortunately, will start to deteriorate too. So please do take care of your mental health. I don't have all the answers, but I do have suggestions and questions. So what we do know, as Doc so eloquently took us through, we do know that Black African, Caribbean, and South Asian backgrounds are at higher risk. Okay, that we do know, but why? And that we don't understand fully. And because the research does not quite exist the way we need it to. Okay, so I'm coming from a slightly different angle to Doc, and I'm going to go more in the cultural direction. And I'm going to say, yes, family history, that we know our genetics does play a part, but our social and our environmental factors, I think, play an immense role in why we don't understand all medicine for all ethnicities. Socially, there's different ways in which different people exercise. And I'm just going to take exercise as the example. If I speak to 6 middle-aged white British ladies, and I speak to 6 middle-aged Black Caribbean ladies, I don't have the ability to connect with them on the same, connect with them the same way to get the same outcomes of exercise. So if I were to work with the white ladies, I could say to them, great, let's do Pilates today, or let's do yoga today. But if I was speaking to the Black Caribbean ladies, I would definitely take myself into the direction of let's do dancing today, or let's actually move to music or something like that. Not to say that one or the other doesn't do the other thing. It's just our culture is different, and we need to access the way in which people think to be able to get positive outcomes through exercise, but also through medical research. And that is what Doc touched on immensely today, which I respect, because we can't say, oh, here's a questionnaire, everyone fill it in. It's not going to give us the results we want. Or here's a radio. It's not going to work. We need to get into the minds of people before we can start accessing their information. Okay, environmental factors. Yes, social media, very powerful tool. I know that this particular audience isn't so interested by social media, but it is a very powerful tool, because you start to see like-minded people in accordance to what you might think you look like, because we all look different, and that gives you an association for some movement. So they're very, very influential social media influencers that are actually getting people healthier by just doing yoga online. And that's wonderful. Any questions? Is it interesting? Yeah, cool. So this one's busy. So South Asian people are bound to have lower, are bound to have insulin resistance at a younger age. And that younger age is actually 25 years old in comparison to the white Caucasian person that is actually at 40. Okay, so we know that the risks lie. Now, what are we going to do about it? Because the research doesn't exist. So we have to dig deep into trying to get more and more research into the right places to get a better understanding. So these two studies, really interesting studies, the Lollipop study and the Sabris study. And if you haven't heard of these, please do look them up, because if you're interested in this particular area, these two studies for me are really, really interesting. Unfortunately, they don't provide us with the now information, as Doc said, but over the time that people do engage with research at this particular moment, that information will become more useful to their ancestors, as well as our well-being of our own lives. Okay, so Lollipop study started in 2002, looked at 30,000 volunteers, mainly of Indian ancestry, and there's different stages through the study, and they've tried to accumulate the different areas that would be of interest. The problem is that these areas we already know. We're not to that next step of understanding, but we will get more and more information in time from this particular cohort, and that's exciting. The other study, similar, looking at 5,000 people across all different ethnicities, and again, the information is good, but it's not answering all of our questions, and we need to encourage the powers that be and the funders that be to get more researchers into the right spaces. But one thing that they did find was type 2 diabetes before the age of 80 was roughly double for the South Asians in comparison, and African Caribbeans in comparison to whites. Okay, good. And white Europeans, so yes. Great. Now this particular study for me was really exciting because it looks at my area of expertise. And we understand that all of these, low physical activity, poor diet, things like that, they're going to give you poor outcomes. But we do also know that some exercise is good for all ethnic groups. So that we know, we have to encourage it. Whether it's specific enough is actually the question. And that is where the research in this particular area needs to go. Because different people hold, body fat differently. And we need to try and find out how to get the right type of intensity, the right duration, and the right frequency of exercise to get the most possible outcomes. So yeah, exciting that we've got the outcomes of actually, yes, exercise does assist, but we know that. Now, how specific can we get? And that is where more work is required. Okay, so I'm going to skim through these because these you do know, and I know we've got limited time left. So please make good dietary choices. All of us will benefit from that. Please make good dietary choices. We know what those are. See exercise as the prescription of medication. If you're taking medication daily, you exercise daily. And that is a very powerful tool for me as a practitioner in exercise to say, please take your medication. Your medication is only valuable if you repeat it. If it isn't taken, as we heard from this evening, the outcomes become less effective. So please take your medication. You can reduce your risk by up to 35%. Then that is research. And the design of your exercise is really important. And this comes from the UK guidelines, chief officer's most published article, I think it's 2019. And what they're encouraging is 150 minutes of exercise per week. If it's at moderate intensity, if you have the ability for vigorous exercise, you can decrease the number, increase the intensity. But my encouragement is 150 minutes per week for this particular age group. Yes, this is for 65 plus, so it can be vigorous, but I'm not encouraging it. I'm encouraging moderate intensity exercise. There will be benefits for vigorous exercise, but there's also risks for vigorous exercise. Okay. Minimize sedentary time. So stand up in between your program. If you're watching a fantastic program and the ads come on, walk to the front door and back. And then improve your balance. So please do improve your balance, balancing on one leg. And this is why I've designed the exercise classes in the way I have, is to try and access all different avenues of what exercise can bring to one's life. Stress management, please speak to Dr. Stephen Orleans-Foli. Okay, because I think that our minds are actually under the weather. And I don't say that in any disregard. I think we all are expected to be okay. We all are expected to be okay because my friend is or whatever. You're not expected to be anything. You're just expected to be you. And if you need help, please ask for it. Okay, we've got some tools for that, but we've got some professionals in-house. Good. So diabetes and cardiovascular disease, serious medical conditions. We understand that. But commitment to a healthy lifestyle can reduce and manage your condition. Okay. Ethnic minority groups are at greater risk. We know that, but we have to enforce greater research in that particular area. Okay. Be kind to one another. And this is my message. Be kind to one another, regardless of how we present. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's got something. Let it go by. And that's what South Africa's taught me. There's so much anger. Anger's useless, wasted energy. Just be kind and have hope. Those are my references. I will take you to some cool visuals. Yeah. So this is Lion's Head, that's Table Mountain, and that is Devil's Peak. And this particular mountain I spent a lot of time on. And that would be my safe, crazy, wild place. And this is one of my own photos, and that is particularly the path that I used to run along. And I would do that as frequently as I possibly could, not only for my physical well-being, but also my mental well-being. And we happened to live just down here. It was really lucky. I was in an amazing flat at a very cheap price. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to be there. But it allowed me to do things outdoors. And who cares what the weather is? It's going to rain. It's going to snow. It's going to be cold. It's going to be hot. We got to get outside. There's nothing we can do to change the weather. So get outside. And that's for all of us. Get outside and do things, because that will change our psychological state. So if you want to get in contact, please do so. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks for your attention. Cool. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, please.
We talk about going to the doctor. You go to the doctor, you make an appointment to see a doctor, you see a doctor. What you go for, he don't telling you, he don't summon you, he just sit down and telling you to take diet, you must lose weight,
yeah.
He don't examine you. They give you tablets. How will they know what you're sick with to give you tablets if they don't?
So these are all questions I can't answer. They're all questions I can't answer. And the unfortunate thing is this isn't the first time I've heard this. This isn't the second time. It might not even be the 20th time. So us as a society are actually in danger of whatever danger we might be headed to, because we don't know, so it doesn't really matter. But we are at danger. And what I would encourage is try and keep it as simple as possible. Get your own blood pressure cuff, keep monitoring your own parameters. And if things are out of what they should be, then I would be intentional about, doc, this is what is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Okay, and that I say with all respect, we've got to do the work on the doctor's behalf. So how you do your blood pressure, let's say blood pressure, for example, is get a blood pressure cuff around your arm every single day for 2 to 3 weeks. Write that value down. You've got a diary to take to the doc and say, doc, this is actually what my blood pressure is over 2-3 weeks. So you've helped yourself by helping him. Okay. And I do genuinely mean that. Please take responsibility for your own wellness. We can't just phone the doc, I've got a sore toe, what must I do? Like, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying, like, that is how it's happening. And that is why we sit in these positions where there's just not enough time.
So many times take this to do that. You need to do this and you need to do that. And you don't put it on you. You don't know what you're suffering with.
Exactly. So I'm very respectful of the process, and I'm very respectful of the frustration, but I have to introspectively say, like, take responsibility for it. Go there with the intention. Okay.
What's the best
Oh.
blood money do? For instance.
I am not going to answer that now because I don't know. But what I am going to say is, please do get in contact. I will get in contact with you, Margaret, and we can discuss it with her. Absolute pleasure. Okay. For the sake of time, guys, thank you so much.
Okay, we have one final set of speakers. These lovely ladies over here, they are called Yasmin, Nuria, and Lauren, and they're from Imperial College. So if you guys would like to come up.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today, and it's a pleasure to be invited by Fulham Good Neighbours to come and hear from all the amazing speakers who just up on this side. So I'm Yasmin.
I'm Lauren. And I'm Nuria. We're third-year medical students from Imperial College London, and this is Project Reverse. It was a community action project that aims to make pre-diabetes.
So as part of our curriculum, we were asked by our faculty to develop a project that tackles a health problem seen at our allocated GP. So we were allocated to Fulham Medical Centre, which is just down the road. I'll abbreviate that to FMC from now on. After discussions with the multidisciplinary teams or the healthcare professionals at the practice, we realised that pre-diabetes is a major problem at the practice and is highlighted, as Simon said before, and with over 300 patients on the pre-diabetes register. We looked at what resources were available, and unfortunately, this was the only resource that FMC had. It's an information sheet, but as you can, it's very small, but if I highlight, they use harsh wording such as banish or red, and it's not very patient-friendly, as you can see. So identifying that this could be demoralizing for the patients, coupled with the need for more effective preventative measures in public health in Hammersmith and Fulham, this birthed the idea of Project Reverse.
5.4% of the patients at FMC are on the non-diabetic hypoglycemia register. This is higher than both the national percentage and the median practice percentage in England.
You can't hear.
Oh, sorry. The proportion of FMC patients with pre-diabetes has increased annually. This also shows that not only is this relevant to FMC, but it's also relevant to the North West London Clinical Commissioning Group. After speaking with the health coach and the social prescriber link worker, we were able to collate a list of services currently available for pre-diabetic patients at FMC. We categorize these assets into those that are aimed at healthier eating, those aimed at weight management and physical activity, and those that are aimed at growth.
So from this, our aims for the project were to first understand the main concerns and barriers against behavioural change and participation in the available programs that you just saw before. We then addressed the concerns of the patients mentioned. And then from that, we put the action and community action project by creating a resource to help those patients. And then we finally evaluated the effectiveness of our project. We signposted patients to more support organisations such as Fulham Good Neighbours, and we liaised with external organisations to further increase our outreach.
Our initial data collection was to gauge patient attitudes and current lifestyle habits. This included asking questions about physical activity and diet. In addition to this, we asked about challenges stopping people from making those lifestyle changes.
Because our data was qualitative, we took a thematic approach to its analysis. This meant identifying the main themes that were popping up in responses and categorizing responses based on. Some of the main barriers to healthier eating included organization and discipline, with patients given answers such as finding it difficult to be persistent.
So from this, we created a 4-part video series where we explained concepts that patients did not understand, such as what is prediabetes. We addressed their concerns and did some myth busting. And then we gave advice on the 3 areas that you can see, so controlling blood sugar, healthier eating, and physical activity. We also created posters around the practice, so it's easily accessible to patients. And you can see here, like within a few days, we already had quite a large number of views. So we'd like to show you a few clips of the videos. Each one is quite short, but we'll select certain areas that we feel like is useful to show.
Our aim is to create more success stories like Jean's. This is Project Reverse, a short video series where we tackle prediabetes from all angles, explaining what it is, myth busting, how to eat healthier, move more, and discussing how to control blood sugar. What is prediabetes? Prediabetes, also known as non-diabetic hyperglycemia, is where your blood sugars are higher than usual, however, not high enough to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
How does it work? Prediabetes can be caused by insulin resistance. Insulin is produced by the pancreas to break down sugars and carbs. If you have high levels of sugars and carbs, your pancreas becomes overworked and the cells stop responding to insulin, therefore increasing the blood sugar. If left untreated, it can develop into type 2 diabetes. How is it diagnosed? There are a few tests that can be used to diagnose prediabetes. The most common test is the HbA1c, a test that tells us how much sugar has been in your blood in the last 3 months. A HbA1c test between 42 to 47 is considered pre-diabetic.
What can contribute to prediabetes? Anyone can be pre-diabetic. However, groups that are at an increased risk include those with high blood pressure, those who are overweight, those with a family history of type 2 diabetes, being over 25, and of Asian, African Caribbean, or Black African descent, and finally, being over 40 and of white descent.
Let's do some myth busting. If you're not overweight, you can't get prediabetes. This is correct. Although being overweight increases the risk of prediabetes, those who are at a healthy weight can also get prediabetes, as there are other factors at play, for example, diet.
The only treatment for prediabetes is medication. Not true. Medication is usually a last resort for prediabetes. Prediabetes can be reversed with lifestyle changes, nipping it in the bud before it can become type 2 diabetes.
You can't eat carbs if you're pre-diabetic. False. Maintaining a healthy Mediterranean-style diet is recommended. This means limiting the amount of carbs, but not completely ruling it out.
If you do not have symptoms, you do not have prediabetes. Incorrect. Prediabetes is usually asymptomatic, meaning it presents with no symptoms. But diabetes can present with symptoms including increased thirst, going to the toilet more often, especially during the night, blurred vision, and numbness and tingling in the hands and feet.
Having prediabetes means you will definitely get diabetes. Again, this is not true. Prediabetes is a reversible condition, which is the purpose of Project Reverse, to make prediabetes disperse. So make sure to keep up with the videos to come.
We'll just show you one more video. So this is our video on controlling blood sugar.
Welcome to the second part of this 4-part video series. We will be focusing on controlling your blood sugar, as it's a vital part of preventing diabetes and reversing prediabetes. How can you control your blood sugar levels? There are many ways in which you can do this. One way is by mainly consuming foods with a low glycemic index. The glycemic index of a food represents how quickly it raises blood sugar levels after it is consumed. So low GI foods, such as whole grain foods, pulses, some fruits and vegetables release sugar into the blood more slowly.
How can you change your diet to control blood sugar? Fibre is important for slowing the rate of carb digestion, so adding more of this to your diet, for example, fruit, nuts, vegetables, seeds, oats and pulses, alongside eating low GI foods, is an excellent way to reduce the subsequent rise in blood sugar levels after eating. Eating regular meals at managing portion sizes is another good way to do this. The plate method is a recommended method of managing your portions, where half a plate is occupied by vegetables, which should be non-starchy, protein, and a quarter with carbohydrates. Can exercise help in controlling blood sugar levels? Insulin is a hormone in the body that lowers blood sugar levels. Fitting regular exercise into your schedule is a great way to control your blood sugar levels, as it increases your body's sensitivity to insulin and uptake of your sugar from the blood. We will discuss more about how to include healthier eating and physical activity into your daily routine in our next videos.
What other lifestyle factors can affect blood sugar levels? Managing stress can improve blood sugar levels. Stress hormones like cortisol are released when you're stressed, and these can contribute to high blood sugar levels. Stress is sometimes unavoidable, but ways in which you can cope with it include meditation, regular exercise, connecting with friends and family, and making time for leisure activities. Good quality sleep also plays a role in controlling blood sugar levels, as a lack of sleep causes the release of cortisol and inflammatory markers and reduces the body's sensitivity to insulin. You can enhance your quality of sleep by maintaining a regular sleep routine, limiting naps during the day, and avoiding caffeine in the afternoon and evening. Instead of spending time on electronics before bedtime, try reading or doing something else that relaxes you.
Is weight important for controlling blood sugar? Maintaining a healthy weight is essential, as it helps to reduce insulin resistance, which is what contributes to high blood sugar levels, and can be achieved by doing all the things we've mentioned. That's the end of our second video. Stay tuned for the next video on healthier eating.
And then very quickly, because we do mention Fulham Good Neighbours in one of our videos, we're just going to show you a minute of the last two videos.
Welcome, the penultimate part of this.
Can I change the to 2 minutes?
Video series.
No, I just want to get to like 2 minutes.
We will be focusing on maintaining healthier eating.
No worries if you can't. No worries, but the other 2 videos you wanted to show were about healthy eating and physical activity, and particularly the parts you wanted to show were about accessibility. So for physical activity, we mentioned Fulham Good Neighbours, because as you can see, if you're reduced in mobility, if you can use chair-based exercises that you clearly demonstrated before. And we also talked about in our healthy eating videos, how to get healthier foods on a budget, because some people may come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and may have financial difficulties. So we kind of showed that through our videos too. So we'll move on. So in terms of our project outreach, we contacted all of these organizations, as you can see, Fulham Good Neighbours is on there. And we also presented at the South Fulham GP Network. We presented our project there.
Overall, we found our video series useful, engaging, and informative. It also is easy to follow with short and distinct points, had good graphics and subtitles, and addressed concerns via Q&A format and gave plenty of advice. catering to those from different socioeconomic backgrounds. What makes it unique is that it includes a patient story given to.
We also received some constructive feedback from patients. So some patients did say that a combination of the links and resources included in our videos would have been helpful, and that next time we should try it and increase patient involvement.
And as you can see here, when we asked them whether they found the video useful or not, majority of them said yes. So we wanted to also make our project sustainable, because when you look at the economic costs, 10 billion per year is spent by the NHS on diabetes. So therefore, by preventing diabetes and all by reversing pre-diabetes, we aim to reduce this cost.
Our project has social value as it increases health literacy, promotes community engagement, and increases accessibility. Our intervention is also environmentally sustainable because greenhouse emissions from diabetes management is up to 144 kilograms per patient per year. And so by preventing diabetes, we aim to reduce.
And finally, our project not only prevents diabetes, but by reversing pre-diabetes, we also lower the risk of associated health conditions such as heart disease. So that's the end of our presentation. They're all the references, and we welcome any questions.
You're all star.
On the practice website.
So we unfortunately could not get it onto the website because they actually don't know who has it was a bit hard even just to get it on the YouTube channel. We had to create a new YouTube channel for them to get those details. But it is on their YouTube channel because we picked a key one for them. So it's there available. And we've also, because we didn't know how to put it onto the website, we put posters around the practice. So then even if it's not mentioned in the 10-minute discussions that you only have at the GP, it's very easy then for patients to kind of take a picture of that poster and then access the videos later.
Dr. Nigel Slater is retired the GP lead of IT, all things IT. So I don't know who's replaced him, but I'm sure if you contact with now ICB, there will be someone there who, I think they cover Westminster as well as basically more West London. But I think it would be very useful to have it uploaded on their journals. We have to go for this information. Just if you could try and dub it in at least some of the key South Asian languages, given the fact that they're
We'd like to, that's what we'll do for our next thing, is to try to do that, because we only had it, but we want to kind of increase the reach because we found when people found it useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. The videos are, yeah, I've watched them before this. They're